If your car's making a weird noise and you refuse to go to a mechanic because you think that'll make the noise go away, like we recognize that that's a ridiculous way to approach auto repair, right? But
Hmm.
for some reason, we do that in relationships and think it's going to work.
Hmm.
And if it works, all it means is that you end up in a relationship with no love, no respect, no reality, no sincerity, no authenticity. Okay, but you didn't get divorced. Congratulations. Is that success?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are willing to sacrifice their authentic selves or their authentic desires for that attachment. So it's this fear that if I'm expressing myself to the fullest of my capability, that there's no way I'm going to be able to find an accurate match. Like the things I want are just too much of an outlier, which I think is interesting because there was a new study that said that over 30% of millennials have been in some kind of open relationship or poly relationship. That's a huge number, and it's probably higher. That's just the people that said yes. So you might think that the things that you want out of a relationship are way out there and you're never going to attract someone that wants it. But I would say you can kind of self author your story and create the reality that you want. You just have to do that with conviction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been in open relationships without knowing it, right? If your partner's
That's true
cheating
too.
on you, I guess that's kind of open. Yeah, my own experience, long before I wrote Sex at Dawn or did my dissertation, which was the basis for Sex at Dawn, I sort of had this pivotal realization in my early 30s that I personally was not sexually monogamous, and that the relationships that I had had up until that point in my 20s that were, sort of objectively, the women were fantastic. There was nothing that I could point to in the women that was a problem, but I found like I was discontent and restless, and and I would start looking for problems in the women, and I'm not happy because she's not funny enough, or she's this, or she's that. And I remember I was with a friend in San Francisco, in a bar in the Lower Hay called Toronado. I remember exactly where we were, and I was complaining about the woman I was living with at the time, who was like, you know, gorgeous, funny, hilarious, just smart, self-deprecating, like just awesome, just an awesome woman. And I was complaining about something. And my friend sort of reached over and touched me on the chest, which wasn't his style at all. And he just interrupted me and he said, "Chris, dude, I love you, but I can't listen to this. She's the most amazing woman I've ever been in a room with. I can't listen to you complain about her." And I remember suddenly seeing how ugly I was, that I was like a millionaire complaining about taxes,
Mm.
to this guy who was just trying to pay the rent. And that really struck me. And it sort of launched me into a lot of self reflection that led me to this understanding that, like, the problem isn't her. The problem is that I love women too much to just hand in my passport and say I'll never be with anyone else. I'll never go anywhere else. I'll never experience anything with anyone else. I can't do that. That makes me feel really restless and crazy, and I'm blaming her, and it's not her fault. It's the fault of the structure. And so I sort of, came to this. It was almost like realizing I was gay at 30 or whatever I was. It was like, oh, that explains it. Like that's why I haven't been happy. And I thought that what that meant was that no woman would ever want to have a serious relationship with me again, because, as you said, like, what I want is too out there. And so I should, hide that and sort of try to finesse things and not be totally honest. But, I was like, I can't live that way. I'd rather be alone the rest of my life and be honest. And so this was also around the time I started working on my dissertation, which was on human sexual behavior in prehistory, because these things converged in my mind, right? I wanted to understand, like, wait, why am I this way? Is this, I have some kind of a Freudian hang up from my childhood, or what's going on here? Anyway, so then when I started meeting people, the first conversation would be, she'd say, "What are you doing?" I'd say, "Oh, I'm working on a PhD in psychology." "What's it about?" It's about how humans aren't actually monogamous by nature, right? And that would lead us into a very interesting conversation. And about half the women were like, "Okay, dude, that's great, but not interested." But the other half were super interested, and they were really, impressed by my authenticity. And so what I learned was that there are so many more people out there who are, what they're looking for is authenticity. They're not that concerned with exactly what you have to say. It's that you're saying it honestly and you're speaking from the heart. And I think especially women are really tired of men who are trying to play them and
Mhm.
trying to sort of like, be the cool guy who like plays all these weird games that they think women are into. When I think most women, at least women of quality in my experience, what they're into is reality. And so if you say to a woman, "Look, I really love women, and I'm not going to pretend I don't notice when a beautiful woman walks through the room," and you're either down with that or you're not. Most women are like, "Wow, an honest guy.
Mhm.
Finally, an honest guy." And that actually leads them to feel more secure, not
Mhm.
insecure, because they know this guy's being honest and this guy's not going to shape stuff to try to please her. He's going to be who he is. So if he says he loves her, he fucking loves her. If he says she's beautiful, she's beautiful. He's not saying that to try to get something. I think men need to learn that lesson, and it's really hard these days because they don't have enough older men telling them the truth about this stuff.
No, they don't. The role models that you see that are getting the most traction sometimes are infuriating to me, just infuriating. It's this alpha bro, puritanical movement that's happening, and it's almost it's going backwards a lot. And the immediate feedback to any kind of conversation like this is, well, he must be a cuck or he must be a beta. Like that's beta behavior. I'm like, I don't know anything more alpha or self-actualized than an authentic man, than an honest man, that a man that is like, you can still be the leader of, your family or of your partner, or like it doesn't take away from your masculinity. If anything, I think it's an honest enhancement of it, to pretend again that like all your vision is somehow affected once you fall in love and you don't see anything ever again. Or I don't know, it seems very dishonest, a lot of the big like talking heads that you see right now. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think, like everything else, American culture oversimplifies, and, the nuance gets drained away very quickly in any sort of public conversation in the United States. But, it's like, I mean, think about the sports that we love, right? Like you're talking about Kyle Kingsbury. Like he played football, he was a fighter, and he's a big, strong dude, but he's a sweetheart. He's a
Mhm.
really kind person. And
Mhm.
to me, the strength of somebody is in their demeanor, it's in their personality. And gentleness is an expression of strength. Gentleness is not weakness,
Yes.
right? If Kyle wanted to kick some ass, he would kick some ass, but he will do everything possible to avoid that situation. That's strength. I studied martial arts when I was very young. Like I started when I was 8, I think. And I remember the teacher saying, like, you will do everything you possibly can never to fight. You will never fight unless your life or someone else's life is in danger. And then you'll kill.
Mhm.
That's what we were trained in the martial art I studied. It was all about killing as soon as possible because you assume there were multiple attackers. So
Mhm.
you don't fuck around. This isn't to look cool. This is
Mhm.
this ends in someone dead. If you're not willing to go there, you don't go there. You don't take
Mhm.
a single step in that direction. That's strength. And that expresses as kindness and generosity and support for our community. I think those are the kinds of values of masculinity that we need to be teaching to young men, not this bullshit about, walking around with your chest out and, you're Mr. fucking cool and you lift weights. And like, that's an expression of weakness. You need to spend that much time in the gym. You spend that much time worrying about your fucking hair and your clothes and your tats and your abs. That's a sign of weakness, dude. Strong people who are actually strong don't worry about that stuff.
Right, that strength and confidence are silent and insecurities are loud.
Right. It's
Did
like
you watch
dogs. Little
did
dogs make all the noise. Big dogs
Mhm.
are chill, right?
Always, yeah, it's always the Chihuahuas, and you're like, "Oh my god, that's the complex if I've ever seen one," and then you see, German Shepherd or a Great Dane, and they're just chilling.
Andrew Tate's a fucking chihuahua. I'm
Yes,
sorry, you know?
I agree. That man drives me up a wall, and it's the thing that was so frustrating is you had, like, really intelligent people that were like, "Oh, well, he says some great stuff." I'm like, "Of course, everyone does once in a while," but you have to look at it holistically, right? Like, holistically, is that someone that you would want your daughter to date? Is that someone that you would want to date, right? Is that someone that you would it's just no, 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 like, there's way too much wrong, like, a broken clock is right twice a day, doesn't mean that it's not broken. So yeah, I'm glad that that seems to have like quieted down a little bit.